Welcome to today's episode. Have you ever felt nervous when speaking English? Maybe because you're not sure if you're saying things the right way. Or maybe you found yourself struggling to understand others when they speak quickly, and it feels like a barrier that's hard to break through. If this sounds familiar, don't worry, you're definitely not alone. A lot of people, even advanced learners, face these challenges at some point, and overcoming them is all about practice and building confidence. In this episode, we're going to focus on overcoming language barriers, one of the most common struggles when learning English. I'll share some strategies that have helped me, and many others, become more confident when speaking English, even if we make mistakes or don't know every single word. It's important to remember that language is a tool for communication, not a test, and the more we use it, the better we get. So, let's start by talking about building confidence. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you really wanted to speak, but you hesitated? Maybe you were unsure if you'd say something wrong or if people would understand you. The key here is to take small steps. Start with simple sentences, and gradually challenge yourself with longer ones. It's okay to make mistakes. Every mistake is an opportunity to learn. One great way to practice is by having short conversations with friends, or even speaking to yourself. I know it might feel a bit awkward at first, but the more you speak, the more natural it will feel. Another strategy I want to share is listening. Often we focus so much on speaking that we forget how important it is to understand what others are saying. Listening to English, whether it's through podcasts, movies, or conversations with friends, helps you get used to the rhythm and sounds of the language. The more you listen, the better you'll become at understanding different accents and speeds of speech. Plus, you'll start recognizing words and phrases that you can use in your own conversations. Now, let's talk about fluency. Fluency is not just about speaking quickly. It's about speaking smoothly and naturally, without too much hesitation. The good news is, fluency comes with practice. One tip I recommend is shadowing. Shadowing means listening to a native speaker, or someone who speaks English fluently, and trying to repeat exactly what they say. This will help you improve your pronunciation, rhythm, and overall fluency. Start with simple phrases, and then move on to full sentences or even short stories. You might be wondering, what if I don't understand everything? Well, that's okay. Understanding comes with time, and it's completely normal to not catch every word. Focus on the overall meaning of the conversation, not on every single word. If you don't understand something, don't be afraid to ask for clarification or to simply keep going. Over time, your ability to pick up on the meaning will improve. Another big challenge when learning English is pronunciation. Sometimes, even if we know the right words, saying them correctly can be tricky. The key is practice. Practice saying words out loud, and if you're unsure, use resources like online dictionaries where you can hear the word pronounced by a native speaker. This will help you become more confident in saying words correctly, and it will also make it easier for others to understand you. Finally, let's talk about motivation. Staying motivated while learning a new language can sometimes feel tough, especially when you're not seeing immediate results. But remember, every day you practice, you're getting closer to your goal. Setting small, achievable goals can help keep you motivated. For example, try learning 5 new words a day, or aim to have a short conversation with someone in English every week. Celebrate those small victories. They all add up. In this episode, we've covered some important strategies for overcoming language barriers, such as building confidence, practicing listening, focusing on fluency, improving pronunciation, and staying motivated. Each of these areas plays a big role in becoming a more confident and fluent English speaker. The more you practice, the more natural and comfortable speaking English will feel. Remember, language learning is a journey, not a race, and every step forward counts. Let's continue to explore more ways to improve together. I'm glad you're staying with me in this episode. Let's dive even deeper into how we can overcome language barriers and continue to build confidence in speaking English. Language learning can often feel like a challenge, but with the right mindset and strategies, you can break through those barriers and truly start feeling comfortable using English in any situation. Building confidence doesn't happen overnight, but it is absolutely possible. It's normal to feel nervous or unsure when you first start speaking English, especially if it's not your first language. But imagine this. You're at a party, talking to someone in English. Maybe you're sharing a funny story, or simply asking how their day was. You're speaking confidently, and the other person is listening attentively. That moment can become real for you. And the key is practicing in small, manageable ways. So, what can you do to start building this confidence? First, try to create small speaking opportunities for yourself. You don't have to start with long conversations right away. Begin with something simple like introducing yourself, talking about your day, or even just sharing your opinion on a topic. If you're not sure where to start, a great way to practice is by keeping a daily English journal. Every day, write about what you did, how you felt, or what you saw around you. Once you feel comfortable writing, you can try reading your journal out loud, and soon you'll start speaking naturally about your daily life in English too. Another technique that can help you break language barriers is to focus on communicating the message, not just the individual words. Often we get stuck trying to find the perfect word or worry that we might make a mistake. But in real-life conversations, native speakers don't always use perfect grammar or vocabulary either. They simply focus on getting their message across. So, don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's all part of the process. If you don't know a word, you can always describe it in a different way or use gestures. In fact, describing things with different words is a great skill to develop, and it helps you learn synonyms and paraphrasing, two very useful skills for improving your fluency. Now, let's talk about the importance of listening. Listening is such an essential part of becoming fluent in English, and it can help you get used to how native speakers talk, their intonation, and how they phrase sentences. When you listen to podcasts, TV shows, or movies, try to pay attention to the rhythm and intonation. For example, you might notice that when people are excited or interested in something, their voice becomes higher or faster. On the other hand, when they're telling a story or explaining something, they might speak slower and with more pauses. Listening for these small changes in tone and speed can help you improve your comprehension and give you a more natural way of speaking when it's your turn to talk. To take your listening to the next level, try active listening. This means focusing entirely on what the speaker is saying and trying to understand the message without distractions. You can do this by repeating what you hear, pausing the audio to think about it, or even summarizing what was said in your own words. This not only improves your comprehension, but also trains your brain to think in English more quickly. It's like exercise for your brain, getting it used to listening, processing, and responding in real time. As you practice listening, you'll also improve your pronunciation. Many learners feel frustrated when their pronunciation isn't perfect, but again, it's all about practice. One great tip is to shadow the speakers. What do I mean by that? Shadowing is when you listen to a sentence or a short story, and then repeat it right after you hear it, trying to match the speaker's speed and rhythm. This helps you improve your pronunciation, get used to the natural flow of the language. and increase your confidence in speaking. It's a fantastic exercise, especially for practicing those tricky sounds in English. Fluency is another area that often feels like a big challenge for many learners. We might know the words, but when it's time to speak, we hesitate or feel like we don't know what to say next. Fluency comes with practice, and one of the best ways to improve is by speaking regularly. Start by practicing short conversations with a friend, teacher, or even a language exchange partner. You don't have to talk for long periods at first. Just a few minutes every day will make a big difference. And remember, it's okay to pause or think for a moment. Even fluent speakers do this. The important thing is to stay calm and continue. All right, let's continue our journey into overcoming language barriers and building confidence in speaking English. It's truly a process of learning and growing, and every step you take is progress, even if it doesn't always feel like it. So, let's explore even deeper into how we can push through the challenges, get comfortable with speaking, and keep improving our English skills. We'll talk about practical tips, mistakes you might make, and how to keep your motivation up, even when things feel tough. One thing that might be helpful as you work on your confidence is to realize that everyone has been there. When you hear someone speaking English fluently, it might seem like they've always been confident in speaking, but that's not true. Most people who are fluent have spent years practicing and making mistakes along the way. You're not alone in this journey, and the important thing is to keep going and not give up. When you feel stuck or frustrated, just remind yourself that practice makes progress, and it doesn't have to be perfect. The more you practice, the better you get. Now let's get a little deeper into some common challenges that many learners face when trying to overcome language barriers. One of the biggest challenges is fear of making mistakes. I get it. It's easy to feel embarrassed when you mispronounce a word or forget the right grammar. But guess what? Mistakes are completely normal and an important part of the process. Think about it. When we were kids learning our first language, we didn't speak perfectly from day one. We made mistakes, we learned, and we got better. The same applies when you're learning English. So, the next time you make a mistake, try to see it as a learning opportunity. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? And then move on. If you want to improve quickly, one strategy is to practice speaking with different people. Sometimes it can be helpful to talk to people who are patient and willing to help, like teachers or language partners. You can join language exchange programs or even talk to friends who are also learning English. If you're worried about making mistakes, a language partner is a great way to practice without fear of judgment. They're learning just like you, so it feels safer to speak without worrying too much. Plus, when you have conversations with different people, you get exposed to various accents, speaking styles, and vocabularies, which can improve your listening skills as well. Let's also talk about pronunciation, which is often a big barrier. For many learners, English pronunciation can be tricky, especially because some sounds don't exist in other languages. But don't worry, with enough practice you can improve. One way to practice pronunciation is by listening carefully to native speakers. When you hear a new word, listen to how it sounds and repeat it. You can even slow down the audio if you're listening to podcasts or videos. Another great tool for improving pronunciation is tongue twisters. They may seem fun, but they're great for practicing difficult sounds. For example, try saying, "She sells seashells by the seashore," several times quickly. It will help you practice the es and esh sounds and get your tongue used to making the right movements. The more you practice, the better your pronunciation will get. Vocabulary is another area that can feel challenging, but it's also something you can work on every day. One way to improve your vocabulary is to learn words in context. It's easier to remember words when you see them used in real sentences rather than just memorizing a list of vocabulary. For example, if you're learning the word restaurant, you might practice sentences like, I went to the restaurant for dinner, or, do you know a good restaurant near here? This helps you understand how the word fits into real life conversations, and it will be easier to recall when you're speaking. Also, try to use new words immediately when you learn them. Don't wait. The more you use them, the faster they'll become a part of your vocabulary. Another useful tip is to focus on common phrases. English speakers often use certain phrases and expressions in everyday conversations. These expressions can make you sound more natural and fluent. For instance, instead of saying I am happy, you could say I am over the moon, or I am thrilled. Learning these expressions not only makes your speech sound more natural, but it also helps you understand how native speakers communicate. Listening practice is key to becoming fluent, and it's also something you can do in a variety of ways. Listening to podcasts, watching TV shows, or listening to YouTube videos are all great tools. But one important thing to remember is to practice active listening. This means focusing on understanding what's being said without distractions. Sometimes people listen to English podcasts or shows, but don't fully pay attention, and they don't understand as much. So, take time to really listen carefully. Pause and replay if necessary. You can even write down new words you hear, and look up their meaning afterward. Over time, this practice will improve your comprehension and help you feel more confident when speaking. Fluency is not just about speaking quickly, it's about speaking smoothly and with confidence. It's okay if you don't speak perfectly or quickly at first. Fluency comes with regular practice, so try to speak as often as possible, even if it's just for a few minutes each day. Record yourself speaking English, then listen to the recording. This will help you notice areas where you can improve, whether it's in pronunciation, grammar, or vocabulary. With time, you'll start to speak more naturally and confidently. You can even use apps or online tools that allow you to record and compare your speech with that of native speakers. One challenge many learners face is finding time to practice. Life can get busy, and sometimes it feels like there's no time to sit down and study English. But you can find small pockets of time throughout the day to practice. For example, you can practice while commuting, cooking, or even cleaning. If you can, try to make English part of your daily routine, so it becomes a habit. Watching a short video in English, reading an article, or listening to a podcast during your lunch break can make a big difference over time. Another big part of overcoming language barriers is thinking in English. The more you practice speaking, listening, and thinking in English, the easier it will become to express yourself. If you're still translating from your native language to English in your head, it might slow you down. Try to start thinking directly in English when you're speaking or reading. For example, instead of translating, I need to go to the store, from your language into English, think of the sentence in English right away. This takes time, but the more you practice, the quicker your brain will become at processing English naturally. When it comes to staying motivated, remember that everyone's journey is different. You don't need to rush. Celebrate every small achievement, whether it's understanding a new word, having a short conversation in English, or even listening to a podcast without needing to pause it. Motivation is something you can find every day if you look for it. And it's all about celebrating the little things and knowing that every step you take brings you closer to your goal. So, let's recap some of the most effective strategies for overcoming language barriers. Practice speaking every day. Focus on communication over perfection. Listen actively. Improve your pronunciation with tongue twisters and daily listening, and use new words and phrases immediately. Stay patient with yourself, and don't be afraid of making mistakes. They are just steps toward improvement. Most importantly, remember that fluency is a journey, not a destination. And every time you practice, you're building confidence and getting one step closer to feeling comfortable speaking English in any situation. Let's dive even deeper into some additional techniques and practical tips for overcoming language barriers. As you continue practicing and working on your English, you'll find that not only do your speaking skills improve, but your overall confidence grows too. Remember, confidence comes with time and constant effort. Language learning isn't just about knowing words or grammar rules. It's about developing the ability to express yourself comfortably and understand others without feeling anxious. A big part of gaining confidence is about changing the way we think. Instead of seeing English as something you have to learn, try to see it as a tool for communication. English is a bridge that connects you to a world of new people, ideas, and opportunities. When you think of it this way, learning feels more like an exciting adventure instead of a chore. Whether you're trying to talk to someone on vacation, participate in a work meeting, or chat with a new friend, English is the key that opens these doors. Embrace every opportunity to practice speaking and listening, and gradually, it will become second nature. But I know, sometimes it feels like you're stuck in the same place. Like no matter how much you practice, you're not improving fast enough. Here's the thing. Language learning is a marathon, not a sprint. It's normal to feel frustrated when you don't see immediate results, but progress happens slowly over time. One strategy is to set small, achievable goals. Instead of aiming to speak perfectly, focus on small steps, like learning 10 new words a week or practicing your speaking for just 15 minutes a day. Achieving these smaller goals will give you a sense of accomplishment and keep you motivated. Tackling the fear of speaking. One of the biggest hurdles when it comes to speaking a new language is the fear of making mistakes. You might feel embarrassed when you mispronounce a word or use the wrong grammar, but honestly, every mistake is part of the process. Think about when you learned your first language. As a baby, you made tons of mistakes, but you weren't afraid to speak because it was natural. Overcoming that fear of speaking is one of the best things you can do for your fluency. Remember, everyone makes mistakes, even native speakers. If you're speaking with someone who's learning English too, chances are they understand exactly how you feel, and they'll appreciate the effort. A great way to reduce that fear is to practice speaking in low-pressure environments. If you're new to speaking English, start by practicing at home, in front of a mirror, or even by talking to yourself. When you get more comfortable speaking to yourself, try recording yourself. This allows you to listen back, identify areas you can improve, and build your confidence. Another great option is language exchange programs, where you practice speaking with someone who is learning your native language. They'll be patient and understanding, and it'll make the whole process more relaxed. There are also a ton of language learning apps that let you practice speaking with native speakers through text or voice messages, which can be a great way to ease into more real-life conversations. Pronunciation is another area where learners often feel unsure. English has many sounds that can be tricky, especially for people whose first language doesn't use the same sounds. Take, for example, the difference between the th sound in words like think and there. This can be difficult, especially for speakers whose native language doesn't have the same sound. But the more you practice, the easier it becomes. Shadowing is an excellent way to improve pronunciation. Shadowing means listening to a short piece of audio, like a sentence or a short video, and immediately repeating what you hear. Try to match the speed, tone, and rhythm of the speaker. This will help your tongue and mouth get used to making the correct sounds. You can also practice with videos or podcasts that are specifically focused on pronunciation, which often break down difficult sounds and provide examples. Another idea is to ask native speakers for feedback on your pronunciation. Most people are happy to help, and you can learn a lot by listening to how they say things and imitating them. Expanding vocabulary. Let's talk about vocabulary. One of the key areas in overcoming language barriers is building a rich vocabulary. The more words you know, the easier it is to express yourself and understand others. However, learning new words is only half the battle. The real magic happens when you learn to use them in context. For instance, instead of just memorizing a list of words, try to use them in sentences. If you learn the word restaurant, practice saying things like, "I'm going to a restaurant this evening," or "What's your favorite restaurant?" This will help you understand not just the meaning of the word, but also the situations in which it's used. A great way to expand your vocabulary is by reading books and articles in English. Start with easy, fun books, and then slowly move to more complex materials. Watching movies and shows in English is also a fantastic way to pick up new words, phrases, and expressions. Listen for words you don't know, and try to guess their meaning based on the context. Then, when you're finished watching, look up those words and try to use them in your own conversations. Another method is to focus on phrasal verbs and expressions. Native speakers use them all the time, and learning them will make you sound more natural and fluent. For example, instead of saying, "I'm not happy," you can say, "I'm feeling down," or "I'm not in a good mood." These types of expressions will help you sound more like a native speaker, and will also help you understand others better. Listening to improve. Understanding. Listening is a key skill to work on while learning a language. The more you listen, the better you will understand how English is used in real-life conversations. One way to improve your listening is to listen to podcasts in English. Choose podcasts that are at your level, and don't be afraid to replay sections if you don't understand them the first time. Listening repeatedly helps you pick up on the patterns of the language and get used to different accents and speaking speeds. As you listen, take notes on new vocabulary or phrases you don't understand. Pause and look them up, and then try using them in your own sentences. Over time, you'll notice that you don't have to pause as much because your understanding will improve. Watching TV shows in English is another fantastic way to work on listening. Watching shows that you're familiar with, such as cartoons or sitcoms, can help because you already know the storyline. This makes it easier to guess what's being said, and you can focus more on the language. One key to improving your listening skills is to focus on listening for the main ideas, not just the details. In real-life conversations, people speak quickly, and you don't always need to understand every single word. Focus on getting the general meaning, and you'll start to feel more comfortable. Fluency is the ability to speak smoothly, without pausing too much or searching for words. It doesn't mean that you speak perfectly, or that you're always grammatically correct. Fluency is about confidence in using the language, even if you don't know every word or grammar rule. One way to build fluency is to practice speaking every day, even if it's just for a few minutes. Try talking to yourself, recording your voice, or using language learning apps that focus on speaking. Practice. Another tip is to imitate native speakers. Find a video or audio clip that you like and try to repeat what you hear. This helps you improve your pronunciation, rhythm, and overall fluency. It's also a great way to practice intonation, which is how your voice rises and falls when you speak. Native speakers have a natural flow in their speech, and mimicking this will help you sound more fluent. Finally, let's talk about staying motivated. Language learning can feel overwhelming at times, but remember that every effort you put in is worth it. Celebrate your progress no matter how small. Did you understand a new word today? Celebrate it. Did you have a conversation in English, even if it was short? Celebrate that, too. The more you appreciate the small victories, the more motivated you'll feel. Also, find a study routine that works for you. Whether you like studying in the morning or before bed, find a time when you feel the most focused. Set aside a few minutes each day to practice speaking, listening, reading, and writing. Even 10-15 minutes a day can make a big difference over time. Let's continue to explore even more ways to build confidence and overcome the barriers of speaking English. It's important to remember that language is not a perfect system, and no one speaks flawlessly all the time. Even native speakers make mistakes. The key is not to focus on perfection, but on communication. If you can express yourself clearly, that's what truly matters. Embrace the power of listening and imitation. Now let's dive into the magic of listening and imitation. As mentioned earlier, listening is one of the best ways to improve your speaking skills. But how can listening really help you become more confident? When you listen to English regularly, you start to internalize the rhythm and patterns of the language, the way people connect words, stress certain syllables, and even change their tone as they speak. This is all part of the natural flow of English. A great way to boost your fluency and confidence is to imitate native speakers. You can start with short video clips or podcasts. Choose an audio that you enjoy or are interested in, something that motivates you. It could be a clip from a popular TV show, a podcast on a topic you like, or even an interview with someone you admire. Once you have your audio, pause after each sentence or section and repeat what you hear, trying to match the speaker's intonation, accent, and speed. This will help you get used to how English sounds in real life. It's also helpful to mimic the speaker's emotion and body language. This might feel silly at first, but it's a great way to understand the emotional undertone of the language. For example, when someone says, "That's amazing," with excitement, it's not just the words you're imitating, but the feeling behind the words. Expressing emotions clearly in English helps you sound more natural and can also improve your own emotional connection with the language. But remember, you don't need to be perfect from the very beginning. The goal is to get comfortable with how the language flows and build your confidence step by step. The more you practice speaking and listening, the more you'll begin to feel the language. And when you feel the language, you stop focusing on the small mistakes and start focusing on communicating effectively. Practical conversation strategies. Another thing to consider when working on your language skills is conversation strategies. Many learners feel nervous when they're having a conversation in English, especially with native speakers. It's completely normal to feel anxious at first, but you can use some simple strategies to help guide your conversations and build your confidence. Start with easy topics. Don't rush into deep, complex discussions. Practice talking about everyday things, your hobbies, the weather, or what you did that day. These topics are easy to discuss and allow you to focus on using the language rather than stressing about difficult vocabulary. For example, you might say, "I had a nice day today. The weather was sunny. How about you?" This question is simple, but opens up a conversation naturally. Don't be afraid to ask for clarification. If you don't understand something someone says, it's okay to ask them to repeat themselves or explain. You can say, "Sorry, I didn't catch that. Could you say it again?" Or, "What does that word mean?" Most people will be happy to help, and this shows that you're engaged and willing to learn. Use fillers when you need time. Sometimes you need a second to think about what you want to say, and that's completely okay. Instead of pausing in silence, use fillers like, "Well, let me think," or "That's a good question." This gives you a moment to organize your thoughts while still sounding fluent. Paraphrase and repeat what you understand. When you're talking to someone, if you're unsure about what they said, try paraphrasing it back to them. For example, you could say, "So, you mean that you like swimming in the ocean, right?" This helps clarify the conversation and shows that you're engaged. Plus, it gives you practice in using different vocabulary and sentence structures. Speaking more freely. At this point, you might be wondering, how do I stop overthinking and speak more freely? The answer lies in practice and accepting imperfection. The more you practice speaking, the more natural it will feel, and the less you'll think about grammar rules or perfect pronunciation. Fluency is about flow, not about trying to be perfect. A good exercise to practice is talking about something spontaneously. Pick a random topic and set a timer for 5 minutes. Start speaking about that topic, and try not to stop or hesitate too much. If you make a mistake, don't worry, just keep going. It's better to keep talking than to pause for a long time trying to think of the perfect sentence. You'll find that the more you practice this, the easier it becomes to speak in real conversations. Remember, don't pressure yourself to speak perfectly. No one does, not even native speakers. In fact, when you're talking to someone, they don't care if you make mistakes. They care if they understand what you're saying. This is why it's important to focus on communication, not perfection. The goal is to be understood and to get your message across, even if it's not with perfect grammar or vocabulary. Reading aloud to improve confidence. Another excellent technique for improving fluency and building confidence is to practice reading aloud. This might feel strange at first, but it can do wonders for your speaking skills. When you read aloud, you're practicing your pronunciation, intonation, and fluency, all at the same time. Try reading books, news articles, or even your favorite song's lyrics. The more you read aloud, the more comfortable you'll feel using English in your day-to-day life. Start with short, easy texts, and gradually work your way up to more challenging ones. Focus on pronunciation. Take your time with tricky words, and repeat them until you feel comfortable saying them. This can help you train your mouth and tongue to move in the right way to produce the correct sounds in English. Over time, you'll notice that it becomes easier to speak English without thinking too hard about each word. Finding your motivation and building habits. One of the most important parts of building confidence is maintaining motivation, learning. A language is a long journey, and sometimes it can feel overwhelming. However, having a strong sense of motivation can help you push through those tough days when you feel like giving up. Why are you learning English? Is it for a job, for traveling, to meet new people, or to enjoy movies and books in English? Identify your personal reason for learning and keep it in mind during your studies. This will help you stay focused and excited. In addition to motivation, building habits is crucial. Set aside a little time each day to practice English, whether it's listening to a podcast, having a conversation, or learning new words. Consistency is key. Even if you only have 10-15 minutes a day, that daily habit will add up, and you'll notice improvement over time. It's better to practice a little every day than to cram all your learning into one big session once a week. Using technology to your advantage, in today's world, there are so many online tools and apps to help you learn English. From language learning apps like Duolingo and Babbel to listening apps like Audible or podcasts, there's no shortage of resources. Technology allows you to practice whenever and wherever you want, whether you're waiting for the bus, cooking dinner, or relaxing at home. Take advantage of these tools to make learning more fun and flexible. Voice assistants like Siri or Google Assistant can also be a fun way to practice speaking. Try asking them questions in English and practice responding. It's a low-pressure way to build fluency and confidence while using everyday language. Lastly, online communities are a fantastic resource. Websites like Reddit, language learning forums, or Facebook groups can connect you with other learners. You can ask questions, share tips, and even practice speaking with other people. Being part of a community can motivate you and help you see that you're not alone in your learning journey. Let's continue this journey together and dive even deeper into strategies for overcoming language barriers, boosting confidence, and improving fluency. As we've discussed, learning a language is a process, but with the right strategies, persistence, and mindset, you can break down those barriers and make speaking English a natural part of your life. Now, let's take a closer look at more tools, habits, and real-life practices that will help you build confidence and speak with ease. Make mistakes and learn from them. One of the most important mindsets to have when learning any language is to embrace mistakes. It's so easy to feel discouraged when we make errors, especially if you're new to the language. But here's the truth. Making mistakes is an essential part of learning. Every time you make a mistake, you learn something new. It helps you discover which areas of the language you need to work on, and it teaches you to correct those errors next time. Think of each mistake as a stepping stone toward improvement. For example, if you try to use a word in a sentence and it doesn't sound quite right, don't let it hold you back. You can say something like, I think I used that word wrong. Let me try again, and then use the correct word. This not only shows your self-awareness, but also demonstrates your willingness to keep learning. Over time, these small mistakes will get less frequent, and you'll see a noticeable improvement in your speaking skills. Another thing to remember is that mistakes don't make you less of a speaker. They make you human. Even native speakers make mistakes. They just don't dwell on them. Instead, they move on quickly and focus on the next part of the conversation. You should do the same. Practice speaking in real life. Situations, while listening, reading, and studying grammar, are all important parts of language learning. Real-life speaking practice is where the magic truly happens. It's easy to memorize words and phrases, but until you actually use them in conversation, they don't really stick. That's why it's crucial to practice speaking English in real-life situations as much as possible. Start by looking for language exchange partners. There are many platforms and apps where you can find people who are also learning English or who are willing to practice English with you. You don't have to worry about being perfect. These people understand what it's like to learn a language, and they'll be supportive of you. You can even set up regular video or voice calls where you can practice speaking together. These kinds of exchanges are a low-pressure environment, and you can help each other improve. Another great way to practice is by immersing yourself in English-speaking environments. If you live in a place where English isn't the primary language, you can still create immersion in your daily life. Watch movies and TV shows in English. Switch your phone and computer settings to English, or listen to podcasts. All of these actions will help you become more comfortable with the language. Even if you don't speak English all day long, you'll begin to pick up more words, phrases, and pronunciations that will make it easier for you to use English in conversation. Step out of your comfort zone. Another key to overcoming language barriers and building confidence is to step out of your comfort zone. It's natural to feel nervous about speaking in English, especially when you're just starting out. But if you stay in your comfort zone and avoid speaking because you're afraid of making mistakes, you'll never improve. To gain confidence, you have to be willing to push yourself into situations where you might feel uncomfortable. Start small. Don't feel like you have to jump into a deep conversation with a stranger right away. Begin by making small talk in English with people around you. For instance, at a coffee shop, you might say, "Hi, how are you today?" Or, "Can I have a coffee with milk?" These simple exchanges are excellent ways to start getting used to speaking English in public. Once you become comfortable with small interactions, gradually move on to bigger conversations. It might feel awkward or difficult at first, but with time, these moments will become second nature. And the more you push yourself, the more confident and comfortable you will feel in your abilities. Improve your vocabulary and pronunciation. When it comes to speaking English fluently and confidently, having a good vocabulary is key. A wide range of words allows you to express yourself more clearly and accurately. But it's not just about knowing a lot of words. It's about using them correctly and naturally in conversation. Start by learning common phrases and expressions that native speakers use every day. These are the phrases you'll hear in movies, songs, and casual conversations. For example, phrases like "what's up" or "how's it going" are often used in informal situations, and knowing them will help you sound more natural. Instead of focusing on memorizing a huge list of words, focus on phrases that you can actually use in your daily conversations. You'll be surprised by how much more confident you feel when you start using familiar expressions in conversation. Next, let's talk about pronunciation. Clear pronunciation is an important part of speaking confidently. While you don't need to sound exactly like a native speaker, you should aim to be easily understood. Practice the pronunciation of common sounds in English that might not exist in your native language. For instance, the TH sound in words like thank or that can be difficult for learners, but with enough practice, you'll get the hang of it. There are many resources you can use to improve pronunciation. YouTube videos, language apps, and websites like Forvo allow you to listen to how native speakers pronounce words and then practice along with them.